Surrounded by a dense jungle forest in a dramatic mountain setting, Palenque is widely regarded as the most atmospheric and impressive of Mexico's Maya ruins. Located at the heart of a tropical jungle, the ruins of Palenque represent the central area of a vast city whose total area was approximately 8 square kilometers. The layout of the site is incredible. Known to the Maya as La Camha, or Big Water, Palenque was built in a supremely dramatic location, surrounded by mountains, rushing waterfalls, and dense forest. Unlike most other Maya cities, Palenque enjoyed an abundance of water, which was controlled by means of an elaborate aqueduct system. The small Otolum River runs between the palace and the group of cross temples. Just past the North Group is a pathway that leads down a jungle hillside, with benches and small reconstructed temples along the way. Palenque, as the Spanish called it, was established between the 3rd and 5th centuries. The principal monuments were built between 500 and 700, when the city was at its peak. Towards the end of the 10th century, coastal peoples from the region of the Gulf of Mexico invaded, causing its downfall and abandonment. Artificial terracing changed the natural topography of the site, which is situated between the rugged foothills of Chiapas to the south-southeast and the lowlands to the north, creating a hierarchy of volumes and spaces where platforms and structures are organized in harmonious balance. After years of rumors of a lost city in the jungle, the ruins were first visited in 1773 by the brother of the canon of the cathedral in San Cristobal de las Casas. In 1786, the Spanish monarchy ordered the site to be thoroughly searched for gold and treasures. This was done with the help of locals with pickaxes and resulted in significant damage to the palace. The main temples have been cleared, but dense jungle still surrounds the site, covering unexcavated temples which can easily be spotted beneath the foliage. It is estimated that less than 35% of this important ancient site has been excavated. Vast, mysterious and enchanting, the ruined city of Palenque is considered to be the most beautiful conceived of the Maya city-states and one of the loveliest archaeological sites in the world. The outstanding features of the Maya civilization include its long duration, the magnitude of its territorial domination, and the dispersion of its political structures. This resulted in, and is illustrated by, the prodigious diversity of a fascinating, monumental art style. The uniquely original forms were both powerful and refined, and caused great admiration among the conquistadors. The lightness that characterizes the architecture of Palenque, when compared to that of other Maya cities, was achieved not only through engineering innovations, but was also derived from aesthetic choices about what was considered architecturally appropriate. Visitors to Palenque are often struck by the human proportions and spacious galleries of its architecture, the deft application of stucco sculpture, and the sophisticated dialogue between the buildings and the landscape. Maya architects chose to create forms that reference the ancient domestic thatched huts that are still common over much of the Maya world today. Palenque is an incomparable achievement of Maya art. The structures are characterized by a fineness and a lightness which resulted from new construction techniques and drainage methods that were developed in order to reduce wall thickness. The expanded interior space, multiple openings, and the use of galleries give the architecture a rare elegance, richly decorated with sculptures and stucco of a type never previously seen. The Temple of the Skull is built atop a platform and consists of 2 parallel passageways that look onto the site. The building is crowned by a front porticoed passageway, framed by a pilast at the bottom, from which the elaborate skull-shaped stucco relief can be appreciated. In ancient times, this temple must have operated as a sanctuary, stuccoed and painted blue and red. On the southern edge of the central plaza of Palenque, set against a steep limestone hill, sits the Temple of Inscriptions, which held a remarkable secret for centuries. It is the funerary monument of Kanik Janab Pakal. In order to comprehend the symbolism of the Temple of Inscriptions, it is important to have a general understanding of the Maya concept of what occurs to the soul after death. In the introduction to the section on structures, it was suggested the Maya draw an analogy between a seed planted in a mound of earth and the body of the dead entombed in a pyramid. Each was placed into the ground with the expectation of rebirth. The front of the temple is composed of 5 doorways separated by 5 piers. Chan Balum used these surfaces for stucco illustrations of his divine legacy. The influence exerted by Palenque was considerable throughout the basin of the Usumacinta River, extending as far as Comalcalco on the western border of the Maya cultural zone. Hieroglyphic decipherment and historical art analysis are now at the point where, for the first time in centuries, people can once again appreciate the poetic language of the glyphic texts, examine individual personalities, and ask ever more penetrating questions about the political, religious, and social life of the Maya, both at Palenque and elsewhere in the Maya world. Sculptors used 2 techniques. Sometimes stones were sculptured before being set in the wall, while other times reliefs were carved after the stone was set into the wall. The dominant element in the central cleared area is the Palacio. Erected at different periods on an immense artificial knoll shaped like a truncated pyramid, the various buildings are set around the southwest corner. This is a sort of watchtower or astronomical observatory and is a unique example in Maya architecture. The Palacio is divided into 4 main courtyards, with a maze of corridors and rooms that give shape to a rambling administrative and residential block. The dozens of rooms suggest that this was a structure that housed the king, nobility, chiefs, priests, and other important officials, and would have been a comfortable residence. The compound had political and administrative functions and was, at the same time, the residence of the Palenque dynastic rulers. Apparently, the galleries of the subterraneans were designed so as to be the halls where enthronement ceremonies were held. The word Maya first appeared in 1505 to 1506 in a manuscript written by Bartholomew Columbus, the brother of Christopher. The word later appeared in print in the works of Peter Martyr, in his description of Columbus's encounter with 2 canoes of traders in 1502, off the island of Guanaja. Nowadays, the term Mayan refers to speakers of any of the 28 modern languages living between southern Mexico and the Honduran border. Palenque bears unique testimony to the mythology and rites of the Maya, most notably through the incredible number of sculpted reliefs on the interior walls of the palaces and temples. Maya architecture served as a stage for ritual and carried important religious and political symbolism from the beginnings of public art in the late pre-classic period. These fundamental roles of public architecture remained throughout the history of the classic period and beyond, into the post-classic period. From the beginning of Maya public architecture, the builders favoured the substructure of buildings as one of the principal locations to display symbolic and narrative information. Mythological episodes in inscription or literature were used for many purposes beyond simply recording the trials and tribulations of Maya deities. Mythic narratives were intertwined with descriptions of ritual and dynastic history, particular to the individual cities where they were recorded. Thus, the historical moment and place at which a mythological text was produced heavily inflected its telling. Much of Maya creation mythology is concerned with the issues of order, and much less so with the origin of the material universe. The metaphors that the Maya employ to explain precisely how the universe is ordered are often traceable to the structure of the house and domestic practice. Artistic, historical and epigraphic record demonstrate an early and sustained engagement with an elaborate calendric system, vestiges of which are still in use in many modern communities. During the ancient classic period, there were two major calendars in use in the Maya area: the calendar round, composed of the 260-day ritual calendar interlocked with a cycle of 18 months, and the long count. Neither of these systems were Maya inventions. The palace has an unusual square tower, the exact purpose of which is unknown. Most probably it doubled as a watchtower and astronomical observatory. It is thought that the astronomers used basins of water in which the reflections of the heavens assisted their observation. Some believe the tower acted as a sundial. The beauty and complexity of the architectural, sculptural and textural elements of the building have slowly emerged over the second half of the last century through the work of several generations of archaeologists, epigraphers and art historians. The ancient inhabitants of Palenque referred to the Temple of the Cross as Wakchan, or Six Skies, and as the shrine of the maize god Junyanal Chak. Today we call it the Temple of the Cross because of the cruciform iconography of its central tablet. In reality, however, this cross-like element is a representation of the world tree. This image seems to present the Maya concept of the nearly universal idea of the axis mundi, the point at which communication between different cosmic realms can occur. This temple was also known as the North House, and in this way is identified with the cosmic hearthstone, which the Padla gods planted at the Najo-chan location. It was from this northern hearthstone that the maize god sprouted in Maya mythology. The tablet of the Temple of the Cross was once thought to depict Kinik Khan Balam and his father, based on the size difference between the two figures. However, we now know that into the mythological setting described in the central tablet text, Kinik Khan Balam inserted two images of himself, one as a child and another at the time of his accession. The ancient city of Palenque is both grand and mysterious. Palenque in Chiapas showcases one of the most famous sites of the Maya civilization. The city's ruins were designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1987.